Barry, can you tell me, when did you first become involved with the Southwark News?
Well, that's a good story. Really, it was some time ago, I suppose about 15 years ago. Dave had been running the paper for about 5 years or so. Having a little bit of financial trouble, David was. He was probably the world's greatest reporter and the worst financial manager of the paper. He'd tell you that from his own words if he were here to do so. And he come to me for a little bit of backing, really. So I lent the paper a little bit of money just to keep it going because he had a few creditors, which turned into my lending a little bit more money, which turned into my buying a share of the paper, which suited Dave very well and gave him a breathing space for a few years to be able to sort of restructure the paper, resituate just down by Mill Pond there, and off he went on another campaign, one of David's campaigns of Get Your Head Down. And I always remember when I bought a little bit of the paper, I thought it favoured me a little bit, you know. I thought this will be good because I bought a new fleet of cars, and I said, David, I bought a new fleet of cars, why don't you come down and do a story about a new fleet of cars? And he said, that's not a story, that's not a story. I said, well, it is, I've not had new cars for 28 years, to me it's a story. He said, now, if your new fleet gets written off in the first week in Jamaica Road, now that's a story. So, and I never forgot that actually. And I couldn't quite work out why he wouldn't sort of, I'd helped him, why he wouldn't help me. But he's absolutely right. What he was good at was being a journalist. And then I got involved with Damien and some of the guys that had worked there, you know, and done their apprenticeship and their sort of foot running there. And then, of course, they all moved on to Thames TV and London Tonight and The Times. And I was just amazed that people could go from a little paper like this to a job like that. Then I realised what he was really doing was teaching them to be journalists, and that it was a specific skill. And by the time they left here, they could cope with any of that. That was a doddle to them after what they'd had to do here. You know?
Yeah, a lot of them have stepped up to some big
jobs. Yeah, and you have to ask yourself why, because I think the paper builds character into people. And never did I experience it more than when David was very ill, which came upon him really quite suddenly. And he came and had a personal meeting with me, and he said, I need for you to do something very special for me. I need for you to be my executor, I need for you to be a trustee to my son, and I need for you to take care of the paper. And financially you're not going to be happy. And within 2 weeks David passed over, and huge shock. So I picked up the pieces the best I could, and that meant looking after David's estate, providing for his son in a trust fund, and his son and I keep in touch even now. He's doing very well at university and pushing on in his own way. But what David did then was to leave me the paper with a rather large tax bill and a lot of debtors, which was typical David really, but with a really good following and a good foundation. And what shocked me after that was the people that came, how well he was liked. Because he was an abrupt man, David. He could be really quite in your face, but he was well liked because he had a good heart, and he liked what he did here, and he liked the people here. And if you like the people here, that goes a long, long way.
Was he from Bermondsey?
No, he wasn't originally from Bermondsey at all. He was like an adopted Bermondseyite when he came here. But what shocked me was how Dickie Davis, what I could name, Peter, God knows how many of them, all came back to write stories. Your brother Phil was involved, you know, and I went up to the office feeling a bit alone, and there was Simon Hughes saying, you've got to keep this paper going, it's essential to this area, and you know, Kevin as ever battling away, and Chris, you know, doing their very, very best. And these people came and wrote stories for about 3 months, you know, week after week, for nothing. Came and then disappeared, came and then disappeared. And on press day, you know, there would be about 8 of them come in. I mean, that's what he put inside them. They felt they owed him so much. And it became like a crusade to keep the paper going. And I managed to straighten up. We never went bankrupt. We paid all our debts, and we straightened the paper up financially. over about 3 years, and I got to a very good position where we'd had a number of good offers for the paper. Financially, we could have done really quite well. Personally, I owned the whole paper by then, but he was like this historical hammer over your head that said, oh, you can't do that. And then we had Kevin and Chris, you know, who gave their heart and soul to it. And I suddenly realised it wasn't about me, the paper. This is what I do. Albin's is about me. But that Chris and Kevin were just the paper, through and through. You know, these are intelligent people, could have gone on to good jobs like the other guys. And I said, look, you deserve to own this, not me. And over a period of a few years, and at a very, very low rate, we transferred the paper to them. And well deserved, well deserved. And I think under their leadership, the paper's improved immensely. And I'm back with them now, giving them a little bit of help, which is great. And they've just done brilliantly. And I think the paper, Dave knew the paper was really important here to people. And I believe it is now. It's more professionally run. When I had the paper, it was a struggle to we got it out every week. You know, one way or another we got it out. Because we were paying back debts, we couldn't invest in the technology, we couldn't invest in what we wanted to do. But we paid all that. What I'm really proud of, we ended up owning in-name revenue nothing, never changing our name or our foundation, absolutely. And then having much larger papers actually saying, well, you know, wouldn't you like to become part of this group? That was a real nice thing, you know. And I passed it on to those guys out of they absolutely deserved to have that newspaper. Bermondsey deserved to have them too. Because although they're doing very well with the paper now, they've given up the chance of quite high salaries in moving on in big organisations, media-wise, for the love of this paper.
And every week it's still a madhouse on the going to print day, the Tuesday. I get emails from Chris at 11:30. He stood in the office. Sometimes he tells me that we've been here till 10 every week, all of them. So they all
But what they do, I mean, you write for the newspaper. What do? You know, probably for next to nothing, you're doing stuff for them all the time. Probably, if they pay you for something, you probably give 3 times what it's worth.
I've done it for 3 years for nothing, and was willing to carry on. Then they said,
"No,
we're going to pay you."
Well, we had to become more professional like that. We really had to become more professional, and I think overall they've done a tremendous job of that. And we all try to provide them with news or help, don't we, all the time. And I'm particularly proud of the announcements. You know, when they actually have a death, the amount of people in Bermondsey now who maybe 10 years ago never thought it important at all to put it in the paper, but do now. The anniversaries.
You've not set your watch by them, but you see them.
Year after year.
A year since he was in there.
Exactly right.
You do.
Yeah,
it's
exactly
like
right.
Lots of people come up
and so they provided an instrument for bereavement, for people to get slowly over that terrible illness, which bereavement is, a terrible illness. And so they do it. And you know, I always say to them, you know, you don't charge enough for that. I'm not saying you should charge huge amounts, but they're sort of £5 or £10, and come on, it costs you that to do. People would accept 20 comfortably, and you know they've just done that now. But I just think they're 2 really good guys, and all I did was to hold the historical mantle of the paper for a little while. I'm not a journalist. I write books. It's different being an author to a journalist, isn't it? I never knew how true that was. Being a journalist is totally different to writing a book. And
even though you had some kind of deadline, it wasn't an high pressure week deadline.
No, and telling your stories is totally different in a book to telling people quickly. You know, you could knock 20 paragraphs out of what I might write in a newspaper, you know, to get straight to the story and tell you what you need to know quickly. And that's an art, isn't it? And which Dave had. And that's why he said my new fleet wasn't a story at all. And in his journalistic terms, he was right, you see. But for me in Bermondsey, it absolutely was.
Yeah, I think that they done the one when you had the Sultan of Brunei's
Oh, they've done some lovely stories for me, and they love the firm, they love the garden. At Christmas, they do wonderful things for people because they print the whole programme, tell people in advance what's going to happen, interview people to get their feelings, and get people there, really. They tell people it's tonight, it's next week, come on, you know. Oh, I think they're wonderful. I'm involved with them as a sort of Dickensian friend, really. Someone that they come and might discuss some financial things with me, or how would you go about this, or helps with the accounts a little bit, or something like that, or the bank. And so I'm that kind of friend to them now. I don't have any involvement in their, you know, quality of print or whatever, unless they ask me to comment on something. So that's my sort of. I pulled away from it. I gave it to them at the end of the day, and they well deserve it. That's the point. Mind you, Kevin should get a new suit and tie. I think that's for sure.
And an haircut.
Yeah, really.
And then it would be him, wouldn't it?
No, but it wouldn't be Kevin, no. And aren't they terribly different? You know, Kevin's a real lad from Bermondsey, grew up here, and, you know, good Irish parents and good Catholic lad. And Chris is very proper, really. It's lovely. It fits in well.
Oxford educated. And
yeah, but it fitted in fantastically well. Such a kind lad. Yeah.
And got strong feelings for Bermondsey. It ain't just a job for him, as you say. He could have moved on.
And for the paper, and for, you know, it not becoming part of Trinity Press, it not becoming part of the South London.
Well, the one of the you know, part of the headline is at the end. I think only one of 2 independent papers left in the country.
I think, I'm not 100% sure, but when I owned it, it certainly was the only paid independent paper. Plenty of independent free ones, I think, but I think that's the only paid one, to be honest.
And that's something to be proud of.
Well, to keep it that way too. Yeah.
When it's, you know, with all the offers you said, and it must be, it's kind of pride that keeps it.
Absolutely.
And
it's the old Bermondsey way, really.
Because if it was taken over by Mirror Group or whatever it is, it just wouldn't be the same.
Well, they'd
swallow
just
turn into the
absolutely. They would have bought it not to print it. It would have become the Weekender that we have would have been the Bermondsey News stuck in, or the Southwark News stuck into South London or something. But no, it wouldn't have been that, and none of us could do that. None of us could sell it, really. I suppose that's Dave's fault. But
what great kind of legacy.
Yeah, he did really. He maybe hamstrung us all for a while. You know, I think he knew what he was doing, but and he left me just one thing actually, because I never wanted anything with doing it. But he left me just one thing, and that was the original Bermondsey News map, with all the adverts around the outside of the original walled of Bermondsey, whatever. He had it all framed, and he left me that one thing, which I've got in my house now, which is nice.
Lovely, yeah. Why is it important to have this local paper, Barry?
Well, there are lots of reasons it's important to have a local paper. For me, just talking about the announcements column, the actual help it gives bereaved people, the opportunity for people to share in their grief a little bit, that's fantastic for everybody. The first thing I look at, I read papers back to front because I love sport. So I go straight to the back to see how Fisher and Millwall do. My 2 teams around here. What's his comments? What's that comment? Then I go straight to the middle page, which is all the letters. Wait to see if anybody said anything about me. You know, and then of course because it's a local newspaper for local people reporting on local news, and it's never changed, and that's what I love about it. You know, their attitude is incredibly good.
I like how it's kind of very localised. Because the South London Press, I don't even know where Tooting is. It goes Tooting down to Deptford or Greenwich or something, and it's too broad.
It is too big. And although we stretch across Southwark now, and quite successfully now up in Dulwich, much better in Dulwich than we used to be, still I see it as a Bermondsey paper. I can't help myself, and I just call it a Bermondsey paper. You heard me say Bermondsey News.
People still do.
I know it's not. Of course, it's not. But that's how I feel about it.
The focus mainly is on Bermondsey.
And the party was to be in Bermondsey with Bermondsey old people. So, because it originally was the Bermondsey News, let's not get away from what it was. And you can take the boy out of Bermondsey, not Bermondsey out of the boy. So, I think that's where we are really.
So it's the same thing, isn't How do you see the paper's future?
That's interesting. I think Kevin's here for the duration. I think Kevin's attached to the paper. And I think Chris has the same admiration for it, actually. I just hope those two lads get what they deserve from it, because it definitely needs to reward them a little better. We all need to understand that, because they've given their absolute life to it and taken very meagre wages, really, to keep that paper going. So full of admiration for them. Can't go anywhere without them. That's my view. I think they're absolutely essential to the paper. I would just like to see the paper have a bit more, and really, people like you contribute. Phil sometimes does, I think. I do occasionally. I think a bit more of that would be great. Go back to some of the old things they used to do when they looked at, who's the most important sporting person, they were great things. People loved all those. Keep up the calendars. Just local people, local paper, local knowledge.
They're always thinking of new ideas. I'm just going to change this. They're always kind of coming up with new things, and the weekend is now a monthly instead of a fortnightly, and so they're always looking. What can we do? What can we do?
Yeah, they're trying very hard, because advertising. People have got to understand that you have to have that advertising, but they've made it a little bit more interesting, haven't they? Because they've done restaurant stuff. So where you've got a restaurant advertising, then they've reviewed it, and they've been fairly honest about their reviews and not cruel, which is always good. You can always trust them to be like that. And I think that what they do is give a purpose to local people, a platform and a purpose. There's the first person you turn, you don't go to the South London, you turn straight away to the Bermondsey News if you've got some gripe to give, whatever it is. And I remember my bus lanes, they supported me on the bus lanes, and they put it in there every week for 3 weeks because I was fighting the mayor over it. And of course we won, which was a wonderful thing. And won is perhaps the wrong word, but the mayor just saw completely what our angle was and said, yeah, absolutely, I don't want to cause any more distress than I should. As long as it doesn't interrupt with the rest of the traffic in that bus lane, good. So we won that, but and a person wrote in the letters page, and they'll print it whether it's about me or anyone. It doesn't matter, does it? Good luck to them. That's right. And they put in, that I'd had 3 goes in the paper in a row about my bus lane, yet disabled people had, well, doesn't decry any story. Doesn't disabled people need to be actually brought into the limelight of their disabilities and the difficulties they face, but at the same time there are hundreds of people fighting that corner, and only me fighting the corner of the breed in a bus lane. So, but I liked it that they printed it and then let me have a reply on it. Not say, oh, Barry's our friend. Not.
I know in recent months they've got a. Is it Sean Horan? There's always something. He writes all about the disabilities, and he's got his own little corner.
Yeah,
now.
so they've actually. Yeah, they give everybody a chance. I think that's the good thing too. They give everybody a chance, And then when Nick Richards died, Nick gave a great deal of his life here from St Mary's, and hello. Just killed my filming.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
Absolutely ruined. Yeah, I don't know. 13
all
minutes.
again, right from the beginning.
Sorry, Barry, I had to give you that.
Yeah. Super. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye. What was his name? Where he came in?
About everyone giving everyone their corner. That's about the disability man.
They give everybody their 15 minutes of fame, and Nick Richards, when he died, had given a great deal of his life to this area. They come and talk to different people on how they viewed Nick, and you've got a whole cross section of the guys he had a drink with, to people like me that he worked with, to the people when he run the pie and liquor, then families he'd helped and christened, and you've got the whole story about. From the local people, not from Chris and Kevin. The story about Nick Richards came from local people. The story about Barrett's and Downtown and British Land doesn't come from the reporters. They let it come from the local people. That's what I think they do.
The letters page is see
phenomenal.
things building up, don't you?
That's why I go there second after the sport.
Yeah, and that's right. Anything else you'd like to add? I think I might have missed out.
Well, I think what we've got to do for the paper in the future is find a bit more investment again, and a bit more technology for them, a bit more support. And I think if I had a message for everyone in Southwark is buy it. You won't regret it.
It's still one of the cheapest papers around.
Too cheap. That's their trouble. It's too cheap.
I was looking through the archives to get some shots of the old Bermondsey news, and I picked one up from about 7 years ago, and it was 30p then. You know,
No.
Even
They're
just
just
going up
cover-
like 1 or 2p
I
every
know.
couple
All they're
of
doing
years.
is covering the print cost, and they're so conscious of it being a better paper than money, and you've got to give them credit for that. I'd like to see them print some of the old papers. You know, I'd like once a month inside the paper for them to print Dave's paper in 1970. You know, that kind of thing.
It's interesting looking back some of those early ones from 20 years ago, because that's when all the redevelopment was just starting,
Yeah,
wasn't
the
it?
Docklands had nothing in it but docks, no water. Yeah.
And it was kind of, and now you can look at the battles that was going on for land,
Oh,
and now
unbelievable.
look at what's happened. So we're looking back in hindsight.
Unbelievable. Yeah,
Yeah.
unbelievable. I'd love them to print some of those.
Yeah.
I think maybe at the 20th year they should print the first one again.
Yeah, and I don't
yeah.
think they've got the 31st one.
Pretty close to it, haven't they?
I think about October '87.
Yeah, that. Well,
I don't know what number that was.
No,
but
they
said
should
they've
print
got
it
the-
anyway.
Someone somewhere with that. They should put a little search out. Has anyone got the very first copy?
Yeah,
Maybe one of Dave's family.
because Dave just knocked it out, didn't he? He didn't put it on wasn't on a base or a computer or a disc or a. It's just knocked out, wasn't it? He was a belt and braces man, though, wasn't he?
I didn't know.
Did you not?
No. I've just heard so much about him.
Character, belt and braces. Come marching in here. I don't give a monkeys. Yeah. And he kept forgetting that I was an investor in the paper, so therefore a shareholder, not a director. And he would keep every single year he bought the accounts for me to sign because I kept saying I'm not a director, Dave. You're the director. But his son's doing very well. I'm really pleased to say.
I feel I need to interview some members of this family.
Okay. Yeah.
Because that's the
Okay.
you know, we can't do Dave, but some of his parents. Did he have a wife?
He's got his parents. Kevin knows his parents. He was estranged from his wife, which caused a great deal of difficulty at his death because he made me his executor. And I was sort of acting on behalf of his son, which became a very complicated issue for a little while. But he knew what he was dropping me into there. But the way I look at it is he trusted me enough to do it, and that's a great honour, isn't it? If anyone trusts that kind of their son to you, my goodness. And we did manage to rag round an estate for his son, and you know, he's bought his own little flat from it while he's at university. He's done very well. I think his mum and dad are the people to speak to be honest. I think they remember those days very well. And
How
Kevin,
old is the son? He's probably too young to remember too
yeah,
much.
he is, absolutely. He would, you know, remember his father well, but this is about the paper as well. And I think his mum and dad would be great, and I know Kevin's in touch with them still.
Is it?
Yeah.
So I'll get
So
him
that
to
would
make
be good.
contact.
That would be really good, actually,
Yeah.
to talk to him about that.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Because I've heard so much about him. He was a great man and what he'd done, you know, listening to you and Kevin and my brother Philip.
He was.
And, you know, just knowing what he started is enough for me. But to build up a picture of the man, which is, I think, quite important for the film.
World's greatest journalist, world's worst businessman. Absolutely pathetic businessman, I tell you. And I could say that to his face if he was here. He'd say to me, well, I don't claim to be anything else, but get the paper out, he would. Get a story, he would. And if he had to upset you to do it, he'd upset you, because that was his job.
Worry about the finances after.
Oh yeah, always worry about that afterwards, yeah. Con the bank for another week, and, you know. But we got by, and I was pleased to help him, to be honest.
And good job, you know, you did get by. You got by.
Yeah, I realised it was really important to keep the paper going. It was 3 years struggle, but I look back now and think, oh, I'm really glad I did it. And all I am now is a Dickensian friend to them, but that's nice too. That's nice, you know.
Barry, that's great.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Just want to get some shots.
You can do whatever you like,
yeah.
Michael, and it's nice to meet you. And
Yeah.
well, you'll be at the party, of course.
Yeah, we've met at
Will you
lots
not?
of funerals. Yeah, of course I will. All my dads, my 2 dads. Butchie Burgett, of course.
Yeah, of course I will.
Peter Moss from Bromley.
Peter Moss, that rings a bell.
Yeah. His mum lives at Bromley now.
Does she? What, the Moss family? Went
Yeah.
to school with a few Mosses.
No, but he was from over the other side.
Was he?
My mum and him lived at Bromley. I forget where the burial was now. In one of the local ones.
What, Bromley Kent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tommy Wisewell, Harry Cottrell.
Harry
my
Cottrell?
family. Yeah.
Well, who's Harry Cottrell to you then?
He's my uncle.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, he's funny, mate. Well, his brother was funny as well.
Tommy, yeah.
Tommy, well, he died, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, because so yeah, the Cottrells were I found. Then Tommy Wisewell, where did he live? Just round Keaton's Road. This is about 99, 2000.
Yeah, not long ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I think.
no.
I can't remember the last.
Didn't he have the
last
pub?
few-
He had the pub, didn't he?
Harry
Harry had the pub,
Harry
didn't he? And Harry died. It was Harry who had that terrible accident.
He had drowned.
Well, he was sucked under, wasn't he, by that?
Something, yeah.
Yeah, by the
Just swimming.
walking on the beach he was, and the underground went from under him, took him out with a wave. He's a big man as well. I would never have reckoned that.
Still alright, yeah.
gone into doing all that even, haven't they?
There they go.
Yeah, it does.
In the newspapers, tributes and photographs, all true, mostly, and he would have loved it. He hated spending money on himself. He had a few fancy cars, but he never kept them too often or for too long. He'd rather spend on others.
I stand before you all today, devastated at the loss of the greatest man I've ever known and loved. Messages of support that we have received over the past couple of weeks have been a massive strength to our family and helped keep us going.
Goodbye, Dad. We love you so much. You really are a legend. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
fella.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.